Hey guys, it's Cass here, and today I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in October. So I did actually read quite a few things. A lot of them were graphic novels. Shout out to Get Graphic With It for making me pick them up. And yeah, just going to dive straight in because we've got several things to talk about. So first of all, before we get into it, along with the Get Graphic With It readathon, I also participated in the BlackBritathon throughout the month. So there are several books in here that I read because of that, which was all about reading books by Black British authors. Makes sense. So the first book I read in October was The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This is a book written in verse. It was super quick to get through. It was really good. It basically follows one character from when he was really young to when he's at university, and just him growing as a person and becoming who he is and all this good stuff. It's about accepting yourself. It's about expressing yourself. And yeah, it was a super quick and good read, and I'm glad I finally got to it because I've had it for a little while. And just a random side note on this one, it talks about films in here, which I don't see a lot of in books, and also why not? I'm sick of seeing like every book and its mother talk about the characters like in Harry Potter. That has started to not happen as much, but it still happens in books that are released this year, so that's a thing. But in here, the characters talk about gay films, and there are so many great gay films, and seeing them mentioned in here was great. So if you haven't watched Beautiful Thing or Moonlight, definitely watch them because they're both great films and they're both mentioned in this book, and I really enjoyed that. Just a little side note. After that I read An Emotion of Great Delight by Tahara Mafi. This one is very much a character study, so if you like books with a beginning, middle and end, a story arc that makes sense, wrapped up at the end, you're probably not going to enjoy this, because this feels more like loads of little vignettes of this one specific character and her life, and how bad stuff keeps happening and it just keeps piling on top of her, and she holds all of her emotions in. The title is very much misleading because there's no emotions of great delight. It's pretty much the opposite of that. So throughout this, every chapter starts with a little bit of something that happened the year previous when she was all happy and good things are happening before this big event happened in her life and made everything go downhill. And then after that, it's just at school or home or in between, things happening and her just trying to deal with it and manage it and not talk to other people and hold it all in. And yeah, even at the end, there is a little slight uptick of hope at the end, but like I say, nothing's wrapped up. It's not like a storyline that something bad happens and then it's wrapped up at the end. It's very much like it stops in the middle of her life, which, you know, that's what life is like. You don't just have this little neat bows at the end. So she's still dealing with a lot of emotions at the end of the book, and she will continue to throughout forever. So yeah, I can definitely see a lot of people not liking this because of how much it focuses on one person. There's not really a lot of side characters, there's not really a lot of other things going on. It's like in her mind, in her heart, in her brain, in her life. Some people will probably find her annoying because she's holding all the emotion in, but you know, I can't say, oh, why aren't you talking to somebody about this specific thing, because I know I'm the same sort of person. If I'm upset or something, I'm more likely to just hold it in and deal with it rather than talk about it, so can't really moan about that. So yeah, if you enjoy character studies in depth about one person, books about sad stuff happening as well, then maybe you'll like this one, maybe. After that I read a book called The Time Thief by, I think it's Patricia Agbibi. It was on my Kindle, it'll be here, I believe that was her name anyway. This was a middle grade about this time travelling girl who can time travel, and she's a girl. Yeah, I wasn't a massive fan of this. Mostly what I didn't like about this was the writing style. It just wasn't interesting, if that makes sense. Like with me, if I'm reading a middle grade, I want it to be snappy, I want it to be quick paced, I want it to be enjoyable and exciting because it's meant to hold the attention of younger people. So I feel like that's something that should happen, but in here, the book was barely 200 pages long and I just felt like it was a slog and I was trying to force myself to read it a bit. On the flip side of that, there were some really good aspects. Obviously, the main character is black, but she's also neurodivergent, and so are several other characters in this book, which I thought was really great. It was written amazingly. She talked about stimming, she talked about having to go to a quiet place to like rest herself and cool down from experiences that were too overwhelming. She talked about all these different things and it was very great to see in a book, so obviously I applaud the author for that. I wish the story was more interesting and I wish the writing was more interesting, because certain aspects like that were done really well. There was also one of the neurodivergent characters is non-verbal, so uses sign language. Great, amazing. I love the rep in here. Unfortunately, the story just wasn't there for me. Like I say, the writing style just wasn't interesting, it wasn't fun, it wasn't engaging or dynamic. And the story itself, I could see what the author was trying to do. There's something happens, something is stolen, and then the time traveling, trying to figure out where it's been stolen from and who stole it. It sounds really interesting, but it did that really annoying thing where right at the end, like 3 pages before the end, the main character just does a massive big dialogue about, oh well, I found out that this happened because this and this, and then this thing over here. And like, you know, the whole show and not tell kind of fits here. Sometimes tell is fine, but I felt like there wasn't enough balance here for the showing and the telling. There was very much, here is what happened, rather than engaging us as readers and showing us what happens and being really excited and stuff. So unfortunately, not a massive fan of that. Also, 2 of the characters, well, there were 3 women that were sisters. One was called Anon, one was called None, and one was called Ano. Yeah, me as an adult, I got confused with which one was which, so a younger, maybe they're better at thinking about it than me, but I was like, which one is that, which one is that? One of them was dodgy, but one of them was not, and I'm like, well, I can't even remember which one's which, so the names are just too similar. So that was also a thing that kind of ruined the reading experience for me. But yeah, unfortunately not the best, but definitely great rep, and love seeing all the neurodivergent characters. So in that sense, I'm glad I read it. After that, I read My Brother's Husband, Volume 1 by Gengora Tagame. This is a story that's 2 volumes, so I'm halfway through the story. And it's basically like a slice of life based around this guy and his brother's husband, makes sense, comes to stay with him in Japan. His brother died quite recently and is coming over to see what his life was like as younger and explore all the different things that he did while he was still in Japan before he moved to Canada, which is where the husband is from. And yeah, it's just a really sweet story about him going to this family, going to his brother's estranged twin and his daughter, and them just learning to bring this new person into their life. It does deal with homophobia, but it's a very quiet kind, a sort of a cultural thing. It's very internal. He's thinking, oh, this is a man and he's married to a man and all this sort of thing. It's very internal, but a lot of the story is showing Kana be completely, amazingly, perfectly fine and really loving her uncle that she didn't know existed. So it's showing that this sort of homophobia and these stereotypes are not there when you're younger. The culture and the place that he is put those feelings onto him. So it is Yachi learning from his daughter that this is all good, and yeah, it was nice. Definitely want to read the next one. After that, I reread Volume 1 of Lock and Key and then also read Volume 2. This is a story about a family that goes to this house that has been in the family for a while, and there's loads of these crazy ass keys and they all do weird and wonderful things. So I'm glad I reread the first one because I could not remember any of this. The ending, I couldn't remember that, and that is a very big part of what happens in number 2. Most of it I couldn't remember. I could only remember that there was a murder that happened at the beginning and a creepy woman thing in a well. That was all I could remember. So yeah, this is a good series. I've, like, now in time I have read the next few as well, but yes, we're talking about the first 2 volumes. It's creepy, it's horror-y, it's interesting. You're learning a lot of different things about the keys, but it's also a lot of things that you don't know yet, so it's a bit like, what is going on, what is happening, what and how and why and where. This one, the key that is introducing this one, the main key, is absolutely wild. Like, how did they even think about that was a thing? It's interesting. So yes, really enjoyed this series. Like I say, I've read the next few. Unfortunately, the last volume is not on Unlimited, which is annoying, so I'll have to find that somewhere else. But yes, definitely enjoying this so far, and I can finally watch a bit of the TV show and not be ruined by that. So yeah. After that, I read The Complete Mouse by Art Spiegelman. This is non-fiction, even though the artwork is about mice and cats, but it is non-fiction. It's about Art's dad and his time in World War II, also the time before and after. And to be honest, I wasn't sure how much I was going to enjoy this, because if you've been on the channel for a while, you know that I'm not massively keen on reading stuff within World War I and II, because as an English person, that's like the one thing you learn in history and it gets kind of boring. World War II and Henry VIII, nothing else. So I'm not normally a massive fan, but I really enjoyed this. I loved how it was just specific about this one person's journey, and you got to know him and his family and his life and his wife and all his experiences within a concentration camp. And yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed the way it was written as well, because it's a comic. I'll show you the artwork. I've not shown you in any others for some reason. I normally do, but so it looks like this, and on the surface I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it with the whole World War II and the artwork, but I really loved the way this was written. So within this, it kind of breaks the fourth wall. There'll be bits in here where Art is talking to his dad and talking about the fact that he's going to make it into a comic and saying, oh, this bit will be really interested, and it's interwoven with the story, and it goes back and forth of him talking to his dad about these stories and then the actual stories on the page. So it was funny in places. I wasn't expecting that. His father was an absolute character and it was fun to read. He was very frustrating and also really harrowing. Like, you saw the artwork, it doesn't seem like it would make you feel a lot because it's very quick drawn, but some of the experience he had in here were absolutely horrendous, and even just seeing them drawn in this little black and white style was just like gut-wrenching. It was horrible reading about these things, but also I feel like the story in general is a story of hope and a story of getting past that and living. And yeah, even though it is a story about concentration camps, it's a story that deals with a lot of death. Even the death of Art's mother was from suicide, so there's a lot of darkness in here, but it definitely, at the end, it felt like it was hopeful and more about celebrating his father's life. And just because bad stuff happens doesn't mean that he didn't have a fulfilling life afterwards. And yeah, it had all the emotions. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, so I'm glad I finally got to it. After that, I read Preacher Volume 8, All Hells Are Coming. This is the second to the last volume in this series, so I can't really talk a lot about it, but stuff happened. In here we follow the preacher who has this thing inside him, which is like a magical, mystical deity that was between an angel and a demon, and it's in him now. And then loads of crazy ass stuff happens in this. It's a very dark series. There's a vampire, just for no reason, for random. There's another dude that shot himself in the face and has a really weird face. His storyline does not go where you expect it to go. It's very random. But yeah, just in general, this is a really dark and gritty and weird and wonderful story. And I only have one left. I don't know why I didn't read it this month. I just didn't get around to it, but I definitely need to read the last one soon and see how it's all going to get wrapped up. Because in this volume they do wrap some things up, but there's still a lot up in the air, but there's only one volume left, so I don't know how it's going to finish. So we shall see. And I feel like I didn't tell you anything about it, but I can't because it's volume 8. Stars. So we're about halfway through, which means, of course, it's time for a message from one of the sponsors. The best part of the video, we all know. Shout out to them and then come back for more of me, perhaps.
I know, right? They should definitely check out some more videos. Why are you rubbing them? You should only rub if they're subscribed. This is for the subscribers.
Next up, I read Unicorns and Rainbow Poop by Sam Cadence. This is technically book 2 in a series, but it looks like it's following different characters within the same group of friends, but individual storylines. This one I enjoyed. It wasn't like amazing, it wasn't bad. I gave it a very average rating, but I enjoyed the experience of reading it. So we follow one character that used to be in a band, like the book follows a different member of the band each book in the series, and he is in some sort of centre because he has an eating disorder, so he's put himself there. And then we also follow another guy who's friends with one of his bandmates, and his grandma has just died, so he's dealing with that. And it's about these two characters coming together and trying to help each other out, and all this group of characters becoming friends. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I like the fact that it's talking about eating disorders as a male. I have read several books about that now, but it's nice to still see it coming up because it's not something that's talked about loads, but I'm glad to see it cropping up more and more in books. So yeah, it was all right. It feels hard talking about a book that wasn't amazing and wasn't bad, because I can't really say like this is the reason it was amazing or this was the reason it was bad. It was just kind of middle. I enjoyed it. It was fine. The characters were fine. I did think one of them was a little bit stereotypical, but sometimes you're allowed gay stereotypes in books, because just because it's a stereotype doesn't mean people are not actually like that, very flamboyant, very sassy, or whatever you want to say. One thing that did make me feel weird, the way the characters spoke, this one character, what is his name? I can't remember. Baz. So Baz is the one whose grandma's just died, and he's a very just like gay, makeup, flamboyant. He even talks about having the gay lisp, which is fine. Like I say, characters, just because they're stereotypes doesn't mean they don't exist in real life, so they're allowed to exist in books. We just don't want them to exist as only that in the books. But he was always calling himself the gay boy when literally every one of his friends was gay. I was like, why do you keep calling yourself, oh look, the gay boy in the room. I'm like, bro, your best friend's gay, his boyfriend's gay, the guy that you're looking at likes boys. Like, why do you keep calling yourself the gay boy? It just felt really weird. But that's just one thing that I've just came to my mind, so I'm pointing that out. There was also a trans character in here, so it was interesting. I enjoyed the dynamics of reading it about all these different characters coming together and being friends, and there's a lot about cooking in here, which is really interesting. I don't know how realistic the storyline with the eating disorder is. I like the fact that it wasn't and now you're cured, but it was really interesting to see he didn't like eating because of bad experiences as a youngling and his parents putting horrible things in his food, very abusive. So he wouldn't eat anything that wasn't just organic and natural and not cooked. So Baz was cooking with him and getting him to bake stuff, so he's the one baking it, and it was really nice to see that. I feel like maybe that would help in that situation. Teaching this person to cook and bake themselves so they can see every ingredient that goes in. It's probably gonna teach them not to be so scared and paranoid about food if they're the one that cooked it. So yeah, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't amazing. It was fine. After that, I read an Avatar comic tie-in thing. This is Toph Beifong's Metal Bending Academy. It's very, very short. I think it was 80 pages or something like that. And I enjoyed it. The artwork is very much just Avatar, so it looks correct. The characters felt correct. But because it's so short, I feel like the storyline didn't have enough time to develop. Like, something happens. It's like, kind of like there was the beginning and the end, but there wasn't enough of the middle. I enjoyed it, but definitely wished it was a bit longer. It's about Toph and having a metal bending academy and feeling kind of bored because she likes going out and fighting and doing cool weird stuff. She don't want to just be sat in teaching kids and then going to sleep and then teaching kids and then going to sleep. And then she finds out about an underground bending tournament thing that people are having. And then from there, other stuff happens. So yeah, some of the characters that I don't already know, I didn't feel like they were characterised enough because of how short it was. But I very much enjoy it, and I think by the looks of Goodreads it might be the first volume in a series of comics, so in that sense it might open up and show more about these characters and stuff, because it definitely did feel like the ending did feel like it could carry on. So yeah, if more come out, it might be able to become a full storyline. I might enjoy it more, but as it stands as one single volume of something that I'm not sure is going to come out as more, taking this as a standalone, I did feel it was lacking a little bit because it was so short. I needed more, but I enjoyed it because Avatar. After that, I read You Brought Me the Ocean by Alex Sanchez and Julie Morrow. This is DC, so it is a little tiny bit superhero-y, but it very much is not superhero-y. Like, that's not the main thing. There's a few little nods to superheroes in the DC universe, and right at the end, our main character feels, you know, starting to develop powers and realising what he can do. But in general, this book is a coming of age story about this guy and his sexuality and his life, I guess. Him and his best friend have always been joined at the hip, and now they're talking about going to different universities, so there's that aspect of it. There's also a little bit of friction between him and his mother because she's very protective of him and he doesn't know why she won't let him do certain things. And then new boy at school, crushing a little bit, that sort of business. So yes, very much a coming of age story wrapped up in a superhero shell. And yeah, the artwork was a bit different. It's kind of very drawery. So here we are, as you can see, it's very drawery, very sketchy. There was nothing necessarily new or amazing or unique about the story, other than the fact that it is a superhero and it is about not being a straight superhero, and he's also not white. So in that sense, on the surface it's like, oh, a gay coming of age. But then underneath it's like, he's a man of colour, he's not straight, he's got powers, all these things that you don't see as often in comics. So in that sense, it's a nice little starting point, and it is a standalone, I think, but it could be more. It could be taken into like proper comics if you take this character and make him a superhero. But in here, yes, he has powers, he learns about his powers, but he's not like a superhero-y dude. After that, I read Natives, Race and Class in the Ruins of Empire by Akala. This was brilliant. Read it. Read it. Read it. So yeah, it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's about race and class in the ruins of empire, as in the empire of England taking over loads of places in the past, and then what happened because of a result of all that. So throughout here, every chapter, Akala talks a little bit about something that happened to him as a youth, as growing up, stuff. It's like half autobiographical, half just talking about like stats and statistics in real life, and like they're talking about the like majority of people rather than just him, but putting his perspective into it, and it's really well done. The brilliant thing about Akala is the way that he can write, because it's so engaging and so easily accessible, but also very informational and just really good. Each section is about a different thing, and it's just really interesting to read a British viewpoint of this, because I feel like a lot of talks about racism and history is based around America. Obviously people should learn about this, but this is different because, like Akala mentioned, a lot of people in England, people of colour in England, came from countries that we invaded and then said, oh, you're part of the British Empire now, so you can come over here because you are also British. So they came over here because they're British and they're part of the empire, and then when they got here were treated as outsiders, whereas a lot of the people of colour in America came over as slaves, and then that's how their ancestors. So there's different dynamics here. The people coming over from their viewpoint were part of the British Empire and they were British, and then over, like when they got here, people were just like, why are you coming to our country? Even though it's their country as well, because taking over their country, saying they're part of us. There's different dynamics. So I think it's very interesting and very important to read and see different perspectives in different parts of the world. And this is a brilliant place to start with England, UK, here. And Akala just has a brilliant way of words. You can feel his lyricism through it, and like I said, it's really accessible to read, but also really good and informational, and you will learn some stuff. After that, I read Kneel by Candice Buford, I think. So this one is strange because the kneeling part felt like such a small part of the story, but obviously a very important, impactful story. So it is about police brutality. It's set in a place where, you know, there's the black part of town and the white nice part of town, and the school over here is not as good as the school over here, that sort of thing. And yeah, it felt strange because the kneeling part, like Russ kneels once at one game and then obviously it blows up. But I felt like this story is so much more than that. What happened before and after felt like more impactful than just the kneeling bit, so it's random. I understand why it's called Kneel and why they're showing that, because like straight away people know what that means. But yeah, it was interesting to read. It was frustrating at times. I especially was frustrated at Russ's dad and how he acted towards Russ and the way he treated him for like several weeks after he did the kneeling. That annoyed me, but I can't say that it's not realistic. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Basically what happens is one of Russ's friends and teammates something happens and he is arrested and benched, and then obviously injustice and Russ feeling like he needs to try and help but doesn't feel like he can help and doesn't know what to do. There's also a storyline with like a relationship with him getting with this girl throughout. That bit, I don't know if it was meant to be a twist, but that was not a twist. I can't really say much about it, but there was no twist there. I don't know if it was meant to be or whether it's just Russ being silly and not thinking. But yeah, it's hard to even talk about. I don't even know. Like, it wasn't amazing, brilliant, perfect, wonderful. It wasn't bad. It was more than average. I enjoyed it. But also it's hard to talk about because I'm trying to pinpoint certain things to say, but I can't. It also doesn't help that I haven't written my review for this yet, so some of it's like, bye. Whoops. So yeah, I liked the story. I liked the characters. It was realistic. Bad stuff happened and continued to happen because people don't listen to anybody. And yeah, can't really say much more. I wish I could. It's annoying me now that I can't actually think of words to say, but it's definitely worth a read. I don't know if it necessarily stands out within books of a similar premise, but it's definitely at the top end of that sort of thing. I enjoyed it. It's good. You can probably guess what happens, but that doesn't make it any less of a book because it's realistic and stuff like this happens in real life all the time. So yeah, it's important. It's an important topic and I think it was done pretty well in here. And then last but not least, on the old Halloween, I read Pumpkinhead by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. This one, very average. I enjoyed the artwork. I think it's really cute artwork. It's super quick to read. So I'm just gonna throw it up. I don't know why some of these I've shown you the artwork and some I haven't. It's just how I am today. So yeah, I liked the artwork. It was a really quick read. It was kind of cute, but it was also very obvious what was going to happen. Nothing particularly stood out as different or exciting. I enjoyed the ride, but the ride was very obvious what was going to happen. And also the ending kind of was a little bit not the best for me. So basically it's these two characters who have worked in this pumpkin patch place for several years. They're going to go off to university, so they're going to stop working together. And throughout this night they go into all these different places. They're trying to find, what's his name? Josiah. They're trying to find the girl that Josiah's had a crush on this whole time, and whilst doing that they're also going to all these different places that they've somehow never gone to throughout working there for the past few years. They just never got around to going and experiencing the place. So yeah, each chapter they go to a different place. The girl's not there. Someone tells them, oh, she's up there now, go to that place. You know, it's obvious what's going to happen. And then at the end I felt like it was too quick. It felt a little bit disingenuous in the way that throughout this book they're looking for this girl that he's been crushing on for years and always talking about, and then at the end it's like, oh well, maybe I'll just go for second best instead. It's not meant to feel like that, but that's how it felt to me, because I didn't feel like they gave enough romantic feelings between the two characters. So it felt a little bit left field. Not left field because I knew it was going to happen, you could tell, but also it didn't feel genuine in that both of them shared these feelings. You could see the feelings from Deja's point of view, but I don't know if you could necessarily see it from Josiah's point of view, so it felt a little bit cheap. Just my opinion. But I enjoyed it nonetheless. It was, like I say, it was cute. It was really quick to read. I liked the artwork. It was fun to see all these different places. I've never been to a pumpkin patch, so I was just like, what is all this stuff? I don't know what most of this means. But I enjoyed the ride nonetheless. And that's it. Those are all the things I read in October. A lot of comics, which is good, getting them off the old TBR, and some good books. So yeah, let me know down below if you read any of these, what you thought about them, if any sound interesting, what you read in October. Did you read anything Halloween-y on Halloween? I don't know, but I will know if you let me know in the comments, just saying. But yeah, there we go. If this is your first video by me and you enjoy it, then please check out some of the others. And if you continue to enjoy, then please subscribe, that would be great. Anyway guys, I shall see you in a few days with another video. Bye.